Had that been any other person, cross out the name Tony Ferguson, enter any other name into that mix,
right,
it would say Beneil Dariush submission via heel hook. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
Guys, if you're new here, we talk about all things combat sports, MMA, boxing. So if that's something you're into, we always appreciate a subscribe and, of course, a like and a comment on the video. So, Nick, the co-main event last night, something that a lot of folks were looking forward to. Excited to see Tony Ferguson back in action now in his late 30s, coming off of two losses in a row. So this is sort of a crossroads fight for him, and the crowd was definitely behind Tony last night. I mean, the roars in that arena were deafening when the Cucuy music came on, which, by the way, just a side note, great walkout song. I don't know the name of that song off the top of my head, but it's a good one. But
the party has just begun.
The party has just, I'm going to have to check that out.
That's a good song.
I'm going to add it to my playlist.
Yeah, it's by like Freestyler or something.
Interesting. Tony's just an interesting guy.
Yeah, it's like a breakdancing song, and it's actually really awesome. You know, Tony Ferguson gets, he gets a lot of love. Obviously, you could hear the deafening crowd, and it was awesome to see him in there. You realize just how big of a star he actually is, and how big of a fan favorite he actually is when you watch last night's card. I mean, everybody was roaring for him. And as he should, nobody's done the things that Tony's done in the 155 division. 12 or 13 fights in a row winning. And then, of course, he's on a 3-fight losing skid now. But that doesn't really matter. He's still going to entertain you. He's a zombie. He does not get finished. And it's so impressive because, you don't really think of him as a high-level worker. You think of him as just kind of an insane person. And the insanity just happens to work. But he arguably has one of the best fight names in the world, El Cucuy.
The Boogeyman.
The Boogeyman in Espanol. And he has one of the best walkout songs. And by the way, the crowd is always behind it. One of the most entertaining styles. And might just have the most insane joints, limbs, legs, and bones and everything that I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, Tony Ferguson, make no mistake about it, even though he's on a 3-fight skid now, losing last night, obviously, to Beneil Dariush, is one of the toughest people on the planet. I mean, Beneil Dariush won that fight by unanimous decision, but had that been any other person, cross out the name Tony Ferguson, enter any other name into that mix, it would say Beneil Dariush submission via heel hook.
Right.
Tony Ferguson was just content to allow the ligaments in his knee to snap before he tapped. I mean, the guy is just cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
And I think that's, while it's wildly entertaining. Tony Ferguson is one of my favorite fighters. He's one of my favorite people to watch. I do think that style in your late 30s is kind of what is starting to slow Tony down a bit. Tony's game is predicated on wars, just getting into wars with people, slicing people open, hurting people, cutting people. And then his ground game, he's obviously a 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's got a lot of very crazy submissions, twisters, go-go platas, things that require a lot of athleticism and a lot of mechanic behind them. And I think at Tony's age, it's just becoming harder for Tony to be Tony and pull off some of the maneuvers that he tries to pull off inside the octagon at the elevated age that he's at now.
Yeah, he's such an unorthodox fighter, and his style is so interesting. Forever, he was doing things that nobody else was doing, and it came off as like, okay, he's high level, but he's not like technically doing the fundamentals just at a better level than everybody else. He's doing things that other people simply aren't doing. And now he went from being innovative and unorthodox to just downright tough. And you're not going to take him out, but you're going to hit him a lot. You kind of hit him like a heavy bag. He doesn't really move quite as well as he used to. His boxing head movement isn't quite where it was. And sometimes he'll swoop down and take a knee right to the face when he's trying to slip out of the way of a punch that wouldn't do near as much damage as the knee that he just took. But it's so entertaining and very fascinating to watch somebody like him. Because, maybe we have seen the best Tony Ferguson, and it's in our rear view window, and it kind of sucks to see. But he still shows the heart of a champion. He's absolutely one of the best in the world. Beneil Dariush just showed us he also is one of the best in the world as well. Beneil Dariush did what he had to do to beat a guy like Tony Ferguson, and that's by far the biggest fight Beneil's ever been in, biggest stage, brightest lights he's ever been under, and I can't really blame him for taking the first 2 rounds and then basically assuring himself that he was going to win the fight by holding Tony down in the last 3.5 minutes of the last round. You got to do what you got to do, and when you're on the biggest stage and you're fighting in front of the most people you've ever fought in front of on the highest part of the card you've ever been on, you kind of got to do that so you can just move forward in the rankings. And I think that Beneil Dariush did what he had to do, and Tony Ferguson, you're not going to stop him. You're not going to beat him. I think that at this point, Tony Ferguson realized he wasn't going to win the fight come round 3, but he wasn't going to get finished either. Period. End of story. You're not going to finish me. And it was just insane to see somebody land in the position to get the heel hook, finish the heel hook, and then when there's no more ligaments to tear, just let it go, because what else is he going to do?
Yeah.
Is he going to just spin his leg around like it's a top or something? No, you can't really do that. So
wind it up like a clock.
Exactly. And we never see Tony show emotion, pain, or anything like that in his face. And when he laid back and was wincing and showing grimace in his face, you're like, oh my God, that's really bad, because Tony doesn't show that kind of stuff. Not only that, that's what the casuals could see as like an indication that Tony was actually hurt. If you know a little bit about jiu-jitsu, or you know about leg locks and heel hooks, or even just human anatomy, you understand that the heel isn't supposed to be in the front. Basically is right under the knee. It's not the way the human anatomy works. So if you're watching that, you're going, oh my God, tap, or in this fight. So it was odd to see a heel hook get finished and then the guy with it just let it go because there's nothing more to do there. And Tony got angry, kicked his hands off, and then kept fighting, was still bouncing around on the leg. I'm sure he's on crutches right now, but I will be forever grateful as a UFC fan, as a fight fan, for Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, I mean, he's put on some of the most spectacular fights that we can remember. I mean, who goes 13-0 in the 155 division during the era of its heyday?
Yeah.
I mean, Tony Ferguson, even though he never became the undisputed champion, he was the interim champion at one point. He's still one of the best 155ers
without a doubt
that has ever lived. And, Beneil Dariush got a lot of boos last night. They were kind of deafening in the arena. I think I get it. I know most people who attend those type of events spend, north of $100 for tickets, and they're not
for the worst seats in the house.
Right. They don't train like we train. They don't understand what mechanics are being applied and stuff like that. So you get a lot of the stand 'em up chants and stuff like that. And even the guy behind me that had a few too many beers, and by a few too many, I mean like probably 10 too many. He nice guy, but just a bit overserved. But when Beneil got Tony in that heel hook, he goes, "Oh, look at me, look how cool I am. I can grab your foot and twist it." And I'm just thinking to myself, that's literally tearing every ligament in Tony's knee, and he's just like fighting and gritting and willing his way through it. So the way I look at this performance is like a slightly less impressive version of what Charles Oliveira did to Tony.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Charles Oliveira took Tony down, dominated him on the ground, beat him up with some ground and pound, put him in that submission, that arm bar. Looked like he broke his arm, but, Tony, of course, just doesn't tap. And so what I think last night that Beneil displayed was that he could do almost as much to Tony as Charles Oliveira could. But I think he's not quite to that level of Charles yet. But then I put myself in the shoes of Beneil, and I say, what would I do in that situation? I just watched a guy who later on, or didn't know it at the time that fight was going on, but later on that evening would become the new undisputed world champion, put Tony in an arm bar that bent his arm 45 degrees in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
He didn't tap. I just heel hooked him and tore every ligament in his knee possibly. He didn't tap. Mm-hmm. What the hell am I going to do in the third round besides hold him down and win this fight? If I can't get a choke on him and put him to sleep, because at this point, I wonder if Tony Ferguson even has carotid arteries, or if his blood just runs differently. Like if you put him in a rear naked choke, would he go to sleep, or would he just snake his way out of it? At this point, it's a valid question. I think who knows, but I'm joking, obviously. But
we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. unless you're going to get that, to his back and choke him out, you kind of are left with not many options. So I do understand where Beneil's coming from. And although there were a lot of boos in the crowd, there weren't any coming from me. I was pretty just blown away by Tony, honestly.
Yeah, Beneil Dariush obviously performed really well. I have no issues with round 1 and round 2. Round 3, he held him down, did what he had to do. I find that to be a little bit boring, and I can totally understand fans, especially folks that have been pinned up for over a year, just chomping at the bit to go to a live event, don't want to see somebody hold him down. And so I get that. I get that he might not have gained as many fans as he probably could have. But the first 2 rounds I have no problem with. They were great grappling exchanges, very interesting things taking place. And there was only a little bit of stalemate, lack of aggression and offense in the 3rd round. So I wouldn't be too hard on myself if I was Beneil Dariush. The one thing I do think he missed the mark on is he didn't call anybody out besides Elon Musk. And he said he wanted to take an extensive break.
Yeah.
I can't have that. If you literally are on the undercard, or not the undercard, you are the co-main event behind the new belt. The belt is vacant and now it's up for grabs. With the right kind of call out, you could wind up fighting one of these guys next. And if you think you can't, just look at what Michael Chandler did. One fight into the UFC against a guy like Dan Hooker, and he's in the a title fight.
Also, by the way, what happened to the last 2 guys who beat Tony Ferguson?
That was the exact point I was going to make. If you don't think that a win over Tony Ferguson gets you a shot at the title, then think again, because the last 2 guys that got wins over him went directly into titles. So Beneil Dariush kind of missed the mark in that aspect for me. I know he has a daughter coming in 1 month, and so he wants to spend some time as a dad and be there for his family. But this window of opportunity as a UFC fighter and a potential champion is so small. You've got to sacrifice it a little bit, even if you do take 6 months off. And look, you've got some time because the Conor McGregor versus Poirier fight's going to happen, so that's going to chill. The UFC wants to see what happens there before they make any plans for Charles Oliveira. And if they don't like what they see over there, which could definitely happen, then maybe they'll call Beneil Dariush if they can, if they're short on names, essentially.
Sure.
But Beneil Dariush kind of took his name out of the hat in that situation, and I feel like he should have thought about that long and hard before he said it. But I still think that Beneil could come back and potentially fight for a title in the next 12 months.
Yeah, I think so, but we definitely like the way the 3rd round went, and then the microphone and lack of a call out afterwards, and saying you want to take some time off, certainly put that at least 1 fight away.
Yeah.
And Dana said after the fight, Beneil, that performance mixed with the what he said on the microphone after the fight earned him a top 5 next.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably fair.
For sure.
When you have a performance like that where it's not the most exciting performance, but you dominate somebody like Tony Ferguson and you're in the top 10, you probably, unless you do something spectacular, you're probably going to move into a top 5 next.
Yeah, but listen to what Dana said. He said you get a top 5 next. So Charles is the king, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at what people are saying in their minds. Michael Chandler is going to fight Justin Gaethje likely next. They're both coming off losses, and everybody wants to see that fight. So there's 2 of the guys out of the top 5. Obviously, Charles is up top, so we'll deal with him later. That's 2 of them. And then the other 2 in the top 5 are already scheduled to fight each other in Conor and Poirier. So it would have behooved him to call out the winner of whoever's fighting right after me, because just on scheduling and timing alone, Charles is probably going to want to defend that title pretty soon. Probably likes his chances against Beneil Dariush, especially as his first title defense. And while the other guys are figuring out who's going to fight him next, he has a pretty good shot. After the boss himself said, you'll probably get a top 5 next. And I just felt like it was a little bit of a miss. And hopefully we'll see Beneil Dariush move forward instead of backwards. But who knows?
Yeah, and I think we will. But I think, like you said, he had some opportunities that he could have seized on that unfortunately he didn't just quite do it.
Maybe we'll see him fight Hooker.
That would be an interesting fight.
Yeah,
and I think that would be stylistically a very exciting fight.
It would be.
But yeah, well, guys, thanks so much for watching our video. Let us know what you thought of the co-main event. Do you think Beneil Dariush did enough to start putting himself into that title contention? It seems like people who beat Tony get shots at the title, but the performances have been a little bit more emphatic than last night's. And let us know who you think Tony should fight next, if anybody, or should this kind of be the end for the wonderful career of Tony El Cucuy Ferguson? Thanks so much for watching our video. If you've enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe, and check us out on audio where you listen to those podcasts. Have a great day, guys.
Peace.